Well, welcome back, tactical folder fans. This old sword with you once again. And yes, that's what they're calling this, a tactical folder. It's the category that originated with Bob Terzuola in his first tactical folder going back to, what is it, the 70s or so, maybe? I had a few of Bob's custom fixed blades way back then. It's a shame I don't have them anymore, but that's what happens when you get in and out of knife interests. It just didn't sustain over the years. Well, that's my loss and someone else's gain who has those now. All right, that's a sidetrack. This is a Spartan Blades folder, and it falls into what they're calling their field grade. So not to be confused with their higher end stuff. And I don't take that as an excuse. I take that more as a level set with consumers so they know what they're getting. This is a 154 cm blade. And as you might be able to see, it is a larger blade. Comes in at 3 3/4 inches. I'm going to measure everything up in a moment. This particular one is black G10, very nicely sculpted, very nicely milled, with some grippiness along the both the flats with just the texture of the G10, as well as back here with that three-dimensional milling. Got a quasi deep carry clip. As you can see, it doesn't go all the way deep into the pocket. It is transferable, but unfortunately they use the button head screws, even though they inletted the handle to accept the clip. And they put a plate, kind of a placeholder plate, if you want to call it that, gap filler on the other side. All blacked out. Titanium nitride, I believe, is the substance they use, is what they're saying on their webpage. TINI, as in tiny. How well it holds up, we can only determine over time. There you can see it pretty heavily branded with the steel, and even smaller, however, with the Spartan soldier logo there. This is made in Taiwan, as they say, by our allies. So it is not mainland China. It is made in Taiwan. Comfortable fit in the hand. But I have a few issues with the knife, things that I feel kind of detract from an otherwise really useful tactical knife. They're not major things, they're minor, and I mentioned one already is the use of these button head screws, but you do have a high riding clip there, meaning a raised clip. So you've got a pretty good amount of space in there to accept the material of your pants or your belt or your strap or pack or wherever you tend to clip this. And it's got a pretty nice ramp there on the way in and on the way out. You'll get a little bit of drag because of the texture of the G10. This also comes in a olive drab G10 and a one of those kind of tacky laminate carbon fiber combo G10 that Spyderco likes to use on some of their Taiwanese made knives. I'm not too fond of it. Actually, I'd ordered it by mistake from Knife Center. This came from Knife Center. And made a switch in the order when I found out that that's what I was getting. And it runs a little bit more as well. So I'm going to stop yakking for a while. And we're going to measure this guy up. I'm going to back out just a little bit. Using my lighter background today because I find the black on black, you really can't see the knife too well. So hopefully the brighter background doesn't blind you. My photographer background gives me kind of, it makes me a little more picky in what I'm choosing here to show you. 9 inches exactly overall. And yes, it is 3 3/4, maybe even a skosh longer than that. It's coming up close to 4 inches. There's the handle right there. So it's a little over that 3 3/4 mark, but maybe they're measuring this. It is exactly 3 3/4 inch cutting edge. So not a small blade by any means. Handle thickness in inches, 0.53, not bad. You got plenty to hang on to. It's thin enough. And blade stock is 0.12 in millimeters. That works out to be 3.1 millimeters. Here is where I have another issue with the knife. It is not weight relieved. Cannot find anything, and these are nested liners. Can't find any weight relieving holes in the liners. So we're going to see what it weighs. And we're getting 5 1/4 ounces. Not particularly light. When I first picked it up, I got kind of the feeling of it being handle heavy, and it is somewhat handle heavy. I find the balance point to be right there behind that finger groove. It would be nice if it was here, but because you've got all the solid material, back that out a little. See, just a smooth nested liner inside. You've got a groove there for the relief for the liner. And finally, here's my last little issue with it. We have this interesting folded over, and I hope everything's in focus here, this folded over liner release. And with that titanium nitride coating on it, it is slippery and you have no relief. Now, in deference to the designer, Curtis Iovito, I believe is his name, Lovito. I couldn't find him on Instagram. I was going to tag his name to my Instagram posting that preceded this video. Apparently he's designed a few things before. And Curtis, my apologies if I misstated anything about your knife designing history, but this one is certainly made by or designed by Curtis, made by Spartan in Taiwan again. It's a long clip point. Getting back to this, I slipped right off a number of times trying to release that liner. If I dig my thumb in and press over, I can release it. I run into a little bit of resistance from the detent. The action is quite nice on the release. And I believe it is on bearings. Looking at their web page now. Not saying, but it might be in the description. Here's what they're saying. Its quick flipper action is assisted by IKBS bearing, yes, for the snap you are looking for. Its distinctive scallops are not only beautiful, but provide a sure grip. The deep carry pocket clip maintains a low profile, etc., etc. Okay, so it's on bearings. And that makes sense. It's got a great action. Can we fail it? No, because it breaks very cleanly. It's got a very pronounced flipper tab that sort of, the angle aligns with the front of the knife near the bolster. Now, getting back to this, I feel that perhaps with this being designed as a tactical combat style knife, that they don't want this releasing accidentally. And I don't think there's much chance of that with this being rolled over and no sharp edges here. Now they do give you some grooves right there that you can see, and you would think that they would drag on the thumb, and they don't. So When you want to close this knife, it is a deliberate action, pressing hard on that liner, and then it's pretty close to being dropped shut. And I messed with the tension on the pivot just a little bit, loosened it up. I was getting a little bit of blade wobble, so I tightened it back to where it was. And I think I'll probably leave it there. It doesn't need to be dropped shut, but it's pretty close with a flick like that. It's just not going to drop shut easily, but very, very smooth, okay? And the flipper tab is almost such that you can push button it. In fact, I just did. So it will push button. No other means to open it. There are no thumb studs. You don't have enough blade there to do any reverse flicking with. It's strictly going to be a flipper tab sort of a knife. Got a nice arrow there that you may or may not have noticed, cut into the clip as a design. And, you know, you handle it a bit and you will appreciate the ergos of this. This finger swale there is a nice pocket for the thumb. So if you like to hold your thumb on the back of the knife, it'll fit there nicely. We do have jimping that is on the blade. That jimping is about even with the top of the handle, but believe it or not, it actually has some effectiveness. I've got a little bit of drag there from that jimping, but it is maybe slightly below the level of the handle slabs. Again, nested liners, so you're not going to see the liners from the outside. They're cut into the handles, and they would be hard to determine how thick the liner is because you can't really see it, and I haven't taken this apart, but it looks pretty substantial, and that may account for some of the weight. Personally, it would be nice if this was about 4.5 ounces instead of 5 1/4. Anyway, I like it. 154 cm is excellent steel. Used to be the premium steel, particularly for Benchmade and other makers. Let's do a compare here with a knife that is interesting. I haven't brought out in a long, long while. This is by Columbia River, and it is the RTD Ready to Deploy or something like that. I'm not sure what the initials stand for. It is about 3/4 of an inch shorter overall. It is a lighter knife. It does have some weight relieving on the inside. I wish that knife was this weight. This also has this rapid breakdown sort of lever. Forget the system that they call that, but you can, with this lever and the wheel on the back, you can disassemble this knife in the field without any tools. Pretty interesting concept. Although I have had some of them loosen up on me just a bit. There's this one, there's the home front, and a few others. But I feel, and I don't think there was any direct copying, but got a pretty close profile resemblance between these two. This one being a little higher in the handle, a little higher in the blade maybe. And they both have that pronounced flipper tab choil area, if you want to call it that, where if you wanted to, carefully you could place your finger. You don't want to jam it up in there because you've got the heel of that blade edge poking you. You got a very similar thing going on here, except it's a full choil. So you can actually use that. They widened it out just a little bit, the way they cut out that flipper tab. So interesting similarity there. And now if we were to jump over to the Rat 1 from Ontario, you would see that we have a closer match, but we still got about a 1/2 inch longer on the Poros. And if I didn't mention the name, I think that's the first I said it during the review. This is the Poros, Here it is next to the griptilian. Okay, it's a good 1.25 inches or so longer overall than the griptilian, with the blade about a 1/2 inch longer or so. Estimates. I like the knife, okay? So with a few exceptions, the button head screws on the clip not being a full deep carry, perhaps some of you want that. The release here, which I think is the biggest problem I have, it's not going to be a fidget-friendly knife, I don't think, because that release is just going to take you a little bit of work every time you do it. Again, if that's a safety thing, and you also have your finger behind this flipper tab, which becomes a guard, so it's going to be difficult for this thing to close accidentally, which is a good thing in hard use. Nowadays, when a lot of button locks are getting, sort of dissed for not passing that wrap test, I think this is not going to be one of those that where you have any way near that kind of a problem that you would have with some button locks. So the release, the clip, and the finish isn't bad. Everything else is pretty good. The grip, ergo's definitely good. Comes through with a smooth edge that is, I would say, shaving sharp. Not necessarily too aggressive, but I think it will cut, as Doug likes to say. Well, there you go. The Poros by Spartan Blades and designed by Curtis Iovito. Great job, Curtis. I do like the knife. And you guys watching this, let me know what you think. And don't forget to give this a like and subscribe if you haven't already.